So I'm here to show you another segment from the wonderful collection of Susan Whitaker of Beverly Hills, and such a curious part of the collection, so totally different, just about the total contrast to her beautiful French bébés and her all bisque mignonettes, but a beloved part of Susan's collection. And in talking to the family about her wonderful personality, she had this very whimsical, one of her nephews described it as a wicked sense of humor. And whenever I hear that, think of that phrase, a wicked sense of humor, I look at some of these Googlies like Max and Moritz, and I think, wow, of course, she kind of, it was like personified. She saw the mischief in these wonderful dolls. Well, what's the story about Googly dolls, and why are people so attracted to them, other than what one collector said to me years ago? I have 5 of them, and I have them on a table. When I walk in my front door at night, and I don't care how bad my day has been, I walk in and I see those happy, jovial, whimsical dolls, and my day is brightened. I feel happier. So this is part of their charm to collectors today, but what about their background? A lot of disagreement in collectors as to what their background actually is. Most people seem to think it was during the 1910 period, but you really could trace the interest in the big-eyed, round-eyed characters back to Palmer Cox in 1892 when he designed his brownies. And if you're familiar with them, or you can simply go online and look for a photograph of them, you will see that they all have those big, almost like bug-eyed, but side-glancing to one side or the other, and very, very oversized, round, googly eyes. Whether that started a movement or not, we don't know, but it certainly is tracing to the beginning of it. Most collectors today seem to feel that the Rose O'Neil Kewpie was the beginning of the Kewpie, of the googly movement. And that may well be, although really about at the same time, we have Grace Drayton, who was doing her Campbell Kids and her other illustrations that would certainly be time efficient to match when these dolls first started coming out. When you're going to find commercially the googly dolls entering the market is going to be, however, right after the introduction of the Kewpies, which would be in the 1910, 1911, 1912 period. And Susan Whitaker had a great appreciation for rare googly characters. She always, one of the things she did in her Googlies, and you're not seeing it here, but if you have her book, you will see it. She was all about size. She not only wanted to have every model she could find, but she wanted them in every size. So we take this wonderful doll here with a great winter outfit and those spectacles and the whimsical look, and you will see that in her collection it appears in 6 different sizes, right down the entire family of dolls. And they're just absolutely wonderful to see them that way. So I hope you'll be able to do that. Well, going back to the Kewpie, here's an example of a large all bisque Kewpie she had. This doll is made entirely of bisque. And for you to appreciate just how large it is, I brought in a smaller one from her collection so I could have it next to it, and you could see how very, very large this is. And imagine how difficult it would be to preserve this. This is a very heavy doll. I'm not sure if it's solid, but it certainly appears to be, and very, very heavy, and would have been very difficult for a child to preserve. I think many Kewpies were given to grown-ups at the time because their storyline really appeared to grown-ups. Her whole premise in doing the Kewpie was that there should be more happiness and joy in our life, and Kewpie could bring that into your life. And Kewpies were marketed in wonderful boxes like this with an illustration on the lid and a little poem about the Kewpies. When people had seen her design of Kewpies, some of the publishers, they said, well, could you do some illustrations for us, and then we'll have someone else to do a storyline with them. And she said, no, I'll do both. And she did. She did both storylines and the designs of the Kewpies, making her a wonderful American artist, writer. She was great. She was a suffragette. She was a really fascinating person. Now, her dolls were made in Germany, and this is made by the Kessner firm. And unlike the one I just showed you, the body is composition. So it's the classic Kewpie body, that chubby little tummy, blue wings, and composition. Now, in my catalog description, I wrote that the blue wings on the composition Kewpies were only found on this largest size 12. This is the largest size of the Kewpie. And I've had someone contact me since to tell me, no, I'm wrong. It also appeared occasionally on one of the smaller models. So more to come on that. And there we are, glass-eyed, Cupid, googly-eyed, top knot, blue wings, side curls, forelock curl, all of the classic things of the wonderful Rose O'Neill Cupid. The design of Googlies at the beginning of the century was part of a whole movement where women illustrators were able to enter into finding a commercial way to make use of their artistic talents so they would be able to do this. Another artist at the time who was able to do this and did it to great degree, not only in the design of her pieces, but eventually later in forming her own doll company, was Georgine Averill. And this is an example of her googly dog, Rags, marked on the back, Rags, designed by Georgine Averill, with a swivel head and the little blue slippers and the wonderful painted and defined dog fur on him. Now, I want to stop these two fellows right here. Max and Moritz. Max and Moritz are German made. They're made by the Cameron Reinhardt Company. And Max and Moritz were inspired by the children's book by Wilfred Bush from the mid-1850s about two really mischievous, well, frankly, bratty little kids. But they were great story figures, and the dolls were one of the last of the art character dolls made by Cameron Reinhardt, and I want to turn them so you can see their profiles of their faces. Each is a different model. They're not the same. They have different features and highly, highly characterized, flirty eyes, which I'm sure you can see, and very important on the Max and Moritz, they have a distinctive body made by Cameron Reinhardt that appears on this doll only, with the little molded painted shoes. Moritz has the brown shoes and Max has black shoes. And they're wonderful dolls. Cameron Reinhardt also made their 131 model, which is extremely rare to find. And the Susan Whittaker collection has two large examples, and also made the 131 model in an all bisque version, which really has almost an entirely different look. The larger ones have, I'm going to put their face next to them, a very, very mischievous look to it. But this little all bisque is very sweet, in my opinion. While we were talking about artists, they were not only American artists, American female artists that designed dolls, but there was a very famous British artist, Chloe Preston, about working the same time as Grace Drayton, who designed her children known as the Peekaboo children. Again, like the American artist, she did not start out by designing dolls. She started out by doing illustrations for postcard, for children's books, for magazines, and then they were so popular that she was commissioned by various doll firms, in this case mostly Schaefer and Vader of Germany, to do a series of bisque dolls or bisque figurines using the wonderful designs that she made of her googly children, which she named the Peekaboo children. And the Susan Whittaker collection has about 25 of them, and some really, really wonderful and rare ones. This particular example I like because they have cloth bodies, and very unusual to find. And then the very, very rare little Japanese girl in the front, which is one of the figures in her storybooks. We showed you a few minutes ago the all bisque dolls made for the French market and then made by Kessner with the jointed elbows and jointed knees. And look at this. Here is a googly with jointed knees, jointed elbows. Very, very rare to find, and combining a delightful googly expression with this wonderful body articulation. Certain models are very, very rare to find, such as this model by Heubeck Koppelsdorf, the two little children in the front looking at each other with the molded hair that were made by the Goebel firm that later made the Hummel doll. And this wonderful, she's wire-eyed and she's wired, I think I could say that. Wire-eyed and wired, big, gigantic googly doll, marked Einko, made for Eisenman Brothers, made by Gebruder Heubach for the Eisenman Brothers of Britain, and it was made exclusively for them, marketed for them, and this is the largest size I have ever seen. She has the wire lever eyes that make her eyes flirt back and forth. But if you didn't like If you didn't like that large size, they also made that doll in this wonderful tiny size. And again, Susan really caring about having all of these variations in size, looked very carefully and always, I remember over the years she would call us if we would have something coming up at auction, and she said, now I want you to very carefully tell me the size, how it's marked. I'm trying to fill in a hole of where I could have. And a very good example of that is this 221 Googly. On the other side of the table, I'm going to walk over and show you, I have another model of the 221 Googly, and if you look in our book of the Susan Whittaker collection, you're going to find this 221 Googly by Kestner, which, by the way, was their answer to the Kewpie. They were making the Kewpie for Rose O'Neill, Kestner was, and they were paying royalties. And they decided, hey, we could kind of maybe not have to pay royalties to this woman. So they made their Googly, which looks in so many ways like the Kewpie, and it was kind of designed to capture that Kewpie market. And this was their 221 Googly. Susan Whittaker has it in the largest size it was made, the size 12, right on down through size 4. Wonderful group. And now I have two wonderful dolls inspired by the drawings of Grace Drayton, her Campbell kids, with their very distinctive bobbed hair, orange bobbed hair, and a look that is just familiar to anyone who's ever had a can of Campbell soup in their hand. But Grace Drayton had that wonderful technique, and again, the Whittaker collection has them in a variety of different sizes. Now I want to show you among the rarest dolls in her collection, French, German, whatever, are this trio of dolls that are known as the Oscar Hitt Googlies. Oscar Hitt was a really interesting man. He was an illustrator, both doing comic illustrations, doing cartoons, doing political work. He worked on films. Man whose name has kind of been forgotten over the years, but was very, very prominent in the early part of the century. He designed toys. For example, that famous toy that tin toy collectors seek, Highway Henry, that was his design. Well, he also designed 3 dolls, and the dolls are marked on the back of the head. This one and this one are marked on the back of the head, Virginia, short for Ginny, copyright by Oscar Hitt and made in Germany. And they're so rare, I think we've had them twice in our 45 years of history. So they very, very seldom show up. They appear to have been made in 3 variations. This one in the middle being the little toddler one with a cloth body and a real chubby cloth toddler body and a slightly rounder face, plumper face, so probably designed to be a toddler, not marked Virginia, just marked designed by Oscar Hitt. And then the 2 larger, slender-bodied children, one with a wig version and one with this wonderful painted hair version. Now, I have spent hours because it's a wonderful escape for me and I love doing it. And I'm anxious to hear from anyone else who wants to give me ideas on this. Who is Virginia short for Ginny? I've gone through all of I read through hours of Oscar Hitt comics, and I'm not reading comics. But I read through hours of those, trying to find out if there was a character in there named Virginia. I found nothing. I finally started to wonder, and actually this morning, could this be an early child film star? So here's a couple names I came up with, and I'm anxious to have anyone else give me their commentary on them. The one that seems to me very likely is a silent film star child born in 1910 named Virginia Lee Corbin. You can look her up on the internet. And she did child things, and she went into her teenage years. And if you see these slender-bodied kids, they can be teenagers. And she did flapper roles, and in all of her photographs, she's shown with these side-glancing, mischievous, googly eyes. And the other one it could possibly be is Virginia Davis McGee, who was an early Disney film star in the 1920s, pre-Mickey. And so I don't know. I think that Virginia short for Ginny must refer to a person, must refer to a particular person, and let's all get on the research trail and find out who Virginia short for Ginny is. I appreciate it very much. The Whittaker collection has over 400 dolls presented in her wonderful catalog book. So if you think you like what you've seen here, it's only the beginning. This is a wonderful, joyous, vibrant, happy collection filled with love of dolls. And anyone who is an admirer of dolls or loves historical dolls, loves history, loves beauty, I really hope that you get to see the entire book of the Susan Whittaker collection, because it will be a wonderful moment for you. Thanks so much for watching.